Good afternoon, everybody. How are we? Good to see all of you. It's an honor to be here with all of you. A lot of familiar faces in the room, a lot of new faces. And President Trump is back, and the golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Across the nation, political insiders and casual observers alike found themselves on the edge of their seats as President Donald Trump's second term began with a wave of surprising twists. Yet none were as stirring as the entrance of Karoline Leavitt, a 27-year-old New Hampshire native whose groundbreaking role as America's youngest ever White House press secretary has already turned heads and sparked debate. Her first appearance at the iconic James S. Brady press briefing room was a seismic shift in how the presidency communicates with both press and the public. The rise of Karoline Leavitt. Karoline Leavitt's journey to press secretary is a story of ambition, adaptation, and unwavering dedication to public service. Born and raised in New Hampshire, she attended St. Anselm College on a softball scholarship, initially convinced that athletics would define her future. But her focus soon shifted towards politics and communication during the 2016 election cycle. Determined to gain first-hand experience, she applied for a White House internship in President Trump's first term, a role she later described as stunning in its scope and responsibility. Assigned to the White House Correspondence Office, she prepared letters on behalf of the president, learning the intricacies of internal messaging and public outreach. Though she once considered journalism, she discovered her real passion lay in shaping policy narratives rather than reporting on them. Kayleigh McEnany, Trump's fourth press secretary in his first term, quickly recognized Leavitt's poise and skill. Impressed by her positive energy and sharp communication style, McEnany brought her on as an assistant press secretary, a role that allowed Leavitt to refine her messaging techniques and deepen her grasp of the White House press apparatus. When Trump lost re-election in 2020, Leavitt became the communications director for Republican Representative Elise Stefanik of New York, a staunch supporter of the president. There, she sharpened her ability to handle high-stakes political communication, serving as a liaison between the House and the broader GOP community. Her ambition soon propelled her into the electoral arena. In 2022, she ran for Congress in New Hampshire, winning a crowded primary that included Trump administration alum Matt Mowers, but ultimately losing in the general election to Democrat Chris Pappas. But Leavitt's defeat didn't diminish her drive or her loyalty to Trump. During his third presidential campaign, she served as his national spokesperson, showcasing her ability to deftly defend his policies in frequent television appearances. Her dedication was rewarded when Trump reclaimed the presidency in 2024 and chose her to step into the White House press secretary role. By January 2025, at just 27 years old, Leavitt had assembled an impressive resume: intern, assistant press secretary, communications director, and congressional candidate that perfectly positioned her to become the administration's principal public face. A bold approach to communication.
The president is open to deporting individuals who have broken our nation's immigration laws. So if they are here illegally, then certainly he is open to deporting them. And that's what this administration is hard at work at doing. We receive data from DHS and from ICE every single day. From what we hear on the ground, ICE agents are feeling incredibly empowered right now because they actually have a leader in this building who is supporting them in doing their jobs that they were hired to do, which is to detain, arrest, and deport illegal criminals who have invaded our nation's borders over the past 4 years. That's what the president is committed to seeing.
From her very first briefing, Karoline Leavitt made clear her tenure would break from long-standing White House tradition. Over the course of about 47 minutes, she fielded a wide range of questions, spanning the administration's freeze on federal grants and loans to the early days of a renewed immigration crackdown. While underscoring President Trump's continued outspokenness, Leavitt cast herself as an essential bridge, translating the administration's political and policy stances for the press corps and American public alike. One of the most striking elements of her debut was her overture towards, quote, non-traditional outlets. Leavitt not only welcomed but prioritized independent journalists, podcasters, and social media influencers, groups often sidelined by past administrations. 2 seats near the podium, formerly occupied by staffers, were reassigned to Mike Allen of Axios and Matt Boyle of Breitbart, signaling her commitment to expanding the media landscape within the press briefing room. The symbolism was clear. Reaching young, digitally engaged Americans is a cornerstone of this new era. It's a calculated move that reflects an understanding of how Americans increasingly consume news. Traditional television broadcasts and newspapers remain influential, but millions, particularly younger citizens, turn to TikTok, Substack, YouTube, and Instagram for their daily updates. Her style at the podium also drew notice. In contrast to her predecessors, who were often seen with hefty binders, Leavitt relied on a few sheets of paper, calling on reporters from across the spectrum. She referenced policy memos, personal anecdotes from the campaign trail, and even her experience in the White House press office under Kayleigh McEnany. The overall tone was calmer than some remembered from Trump's first term, yet the underlying tension between the administration and certain media organizations lingered below the surface. Conservative praise and social media buzz. As Karoline Leavitt wrapped up her first press briefing, conservative voices across social media lit up with accolades. Within minutes, actor James Woods posted on Twitter calling her a rock star, predicting a sublime 4 years under her guidance. Fox News contributors echoed the sentiment, commending her unflappable demeanor and capacity to answer questions without delving into pages of talking points. To them, Leavitt was a breath of fresh air, representing a return to a more direct, less scripted style of White House communication. Many drew parallels to her former mentor, Kayleigh McEnany, whose combative yet assured approach had endeared her to supporters of President Trump. But Leavitt showed a slightly different brand of confidence, occasionally flashing a warm smile as she recognized reporters by name. Online commentators, from right-wing personalities like Clay Travis to radio figures such as James Golden, better known to Rush Limbaugh fans as Bo Snerdley, celebrated her skill at weaving policy details into succinct answers. Much of the praise also centered on her decision to call on a wide variety of reporters, including both staunchly conservative publications and more critical outlets. This balance reflected a sense of confidence that the administration could handle tough questions without resorting to deflections. She tackled sensitive topics like immigration enforcement, reiterating President Trump's stance that the administration would, quote, put Americans first while respecting humanitarian concerns. The freeze on federal grants, a hot-button policy issue, also came up. She reassured that direct assistance to individuals would remain intact, though the scope of future funding remains unclear. But for all the commendations, questions linger about how Leavitt will respond when the honeymoon period inevitably ends. Will she maintain her open-door policy to independent media if tougher stories emerge? And how will she balance press freedom with the administration's promise to, quote, hold the media accountable for what they deem to be misinformation? Challenges ahead.
The Senate has already confirmed 5 of President Trump's exceptional cabinet nominees: Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. It is imperative that the Senate continues to confirm the remainder of the president's well-qualified nominees as quickly as possible.
Amid the fanfare of a triumphant debut, Karoline Leavitt faces a host of challenges that will put her composure and tactical skills to the test. Chief among these is the administration's freeze on federal grants and loans, a policy that has many state and local governments wondering how their crucial infrastructure projects, educational programs, and other public services might be affected. Although Leavitt offered assurances that individuals receiving direct assistance would be spared, observers remain skeptical about long-term impacts. The administration's stance on immigration is another difficult hurdle. In her first briefing, she stressed the need to enforce federal laws while still upholding humane standards. But increased deportations could lead to media scrutiny, emotional testimony from families, and viral footage that galvanizes public opinion. As a central voice of the administration, Leavitt will have to navigate a high-wire act, defending a strict border policy without alienating moderate voters or drawing condemnation from international allies. And there's the personal dimension. As the 6th consecutive working mother to serve as press secretary, Leavitt has drawn attention for her rapid return to the public eye shortly after giving birth to her first child, Nicholas. The demands of a 24-hour news cycle can be unforgiving, and balancing motherhood with one of the most visible roles in American politics adds another layer of pressure. Now it's time to hear from you. What did you think of Leavitt's first press conference? Let us know in the comments section below.